And then our last book for the week is Guardians of the Galaxy #1. It's really interesting that we're getting a #1 in a book that's been around for quite some time. It hasn't changed hands necessarily. I mean, it's a new writer, Donny Cates, but it's been in existence for a little while. So why are we getting a new #1? Well, because it's a new team, so that kind of makes sense. And we even get legacy numbering. We'll get into that in the other camera angle. So let's switch cameras real quick. All right. So #1 legacy though 151. So that's always a good thing. We talked about this. You remember the cover? We talked about this. We've got Beta Ray Bill, Phyla-Vell, Star-Lord, Gladiator, so much going on up front, Groot in the background. We were trying to figure out, because we were told not everyone on this cover is going to become one of the Guardians, and that was very true. So let's get into it. We've got, first off, this is probably the coolest layout of the entire week, which is really funny to me because it's a Marvel book, and generally speaking, Marvel books are pretty bland in the way the panels are laid out. So I really dig this opening page. I think this is one of the coolest, again, layouts that we got all week. The rest of the book, not as much, but still probably the better of the three. Naomi had a couple of spots of brilliance, but not quite as much. So we were picking up, remember, spoiler alert, Thanos is dead. He's lost his head to his future daughter because comic books. We have his brother right here talking to everyone. Eros is... He's supposed to be upset, but in these early panels, he kind of looks mournful, because his brother did die, sure, but, I mean, his brother was freaking Thanos. And then we get the introduction to why all of these superheroes are here. We've got Beta Ray, we've got Ghost Rider. Again, some people I can't recognize, but I probably should, because, yeah, they're fairly common. And then we have Thanos addressing them because this is his last will and testament. And effectively what he's saying is he was not going to die in any uncertain terms. He is not going to die by anyone else's hand. He wants to dictate his death. And so since he lost his head in a way that he couldn't have dictated, he has arranged to have his consciousness... Right here is where it says it. Where is it? Right here. Have my consciousness uploaded and implanted into the mind of another upon my untimely demise. Because he wants to die eventually. He wants to go live with Lady Death. That's his end game. But since he didn't get to dictate that, he's going to... I don't know how that stops. I mean, you've gone from a consciousness to a bunch of ones and zeros that is artificial. I don't know because reasons, because comic books. So Eros says, I brought you all here because you're not afraid to get your hands dirty, even though you're good guys. And then why aren't the Guardians of the Galaxy here? And then we cut over to Peter Quill in a new ship, and Groot is talking. I don't know if this is supposed to be just a translation, though usually translations, you've got the caret, the two open carets and the two closed carets around it, and then the translation, it says across the bottom, translated from Grootish, or whatever, you know what I mean? So he's not just saying, I am Groot, he's saying, asterisks you... Yeah, I am Groot yourself too. So that's what makes me think, that's the one line of dialogue that makes me think, are we actually getting the translation in these? Because that's what Peter Quill heard was, I am Groot, or is that just a bad joke? It just, and then down here, Quill, shut up, look. Like, does he understand Grootish? I don't know what's going on. Nowhere is not there. That will come into play later. This is just kind of, now they're all talking because Eros is saying we're going to have to kill quite a lot of people because they have to stop Thanos from doing things. These are all the potential people that they have decided maybe Thanos has uploaded his consciousness to, but there's no explanation for any of them. The closest we get to an explanation is Gamora, because obviously that's his daughter, so and he had a pretty good relationship with her, so that makes some sort of sense. We have Phyla-Vell flying off the handle saying, yeah, we do need to kill her. I should have killed her a long time ago. Moondragon stops her. Just interesting. Not great, but interesting. And then we get, this is where Nowhere went. Nowhere is here doing things, like holding this meeting place. And then we get the Black Order. And there's a battle, and just it so doesn't make sense what's going on here. The art's great. And even then, it's not the greatest. It's pretty slightly above average, I guess, but it's consistent, so that's working in its favor, kind of. Another quasi goofy scene with Star-Lord, and then opened up a portal that sucks through some of the crowd that was here in this meeting place, and while the Black Order takes Thanos' headless body. And then that black hole or whatever that they opened spits them out where the Guardians are. And I don't know, man. I just don't know. He lands here. So Beta Ray, it's Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill, Moondragon, Phyla-Vell, and the Ghost Rider. And Quill rather, makes them a part of his team because he says so. The Nova Corps is trying to arrest them, but so where is it? We've lost them. So they're asking if they're okay, and they're saying we've lost them, and he lists Corsair, Starjammers, Silver Surfer, Imperial Guard, the Skrulls, gone. Are they implying that all of them are dead? Because that definitely didn't happen in panel, so I can't believe a word that Beta Ray Bill is saying right there. We don't see them die, we see them fighting. So that just doesn't jibe well at all. And then we have the Nova Corps is trying to arrest them because reasons, and this part legitimately made me laugh out loud. Quill, why do I keep saying Quinn? Quill is saying that they're his new crew so that the Nova Corps can't arrest them, and then Ghost Rider said, wait, no, I ain't signing on to be a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And then that cuts us back to the Black Order, and this is one of the other issues I had with this book. Aside from the what the hell is going on, we got the meanwhile in Nowhere, it would seem, and I think we're supposed to assume that Proxima is talking to someone that we don't see. But the only time that there's a dialogue bubble that implies that is here, or no, not here, here. This right here implies that she's talking to someone, but we never, and after reading it twice, I caught on that this was supposed to be whoever she's reading or talking to. But nothing in this establishing shot, in either of these establishing shots, shows that. So the only actual shift, and I'm gonna, if I get dinged for this, then it's whatever. the shift we get again Proxima, and then all of the sudden Hela. When I first read this, again, my first reading's always pretty broad strokes. When I first read this, I was like, did Proxima just become Hela? What the hell is going on? But no, that she's apparently, I'm assuming this is supposed to be a floating throne, and that's where she's knelt. There's just no depth, and you don't. It's just the art's too confusing. There's a much better way to have done that. There was way too much. I dug this book more than I thought I was going to. Let's just say that. But let's get into the review scores real quick. General score for this, technically, it could have been so much better. But that's most Marvel books anymore, right? They have so much potential, but they don't have the right staff behind it. There was too much I can't even put it in words. I can't. There was so much crap on these panels, but at the same time, some really interesting stuff. So it's 65 again out of 100 because all of the reasons, because we get all of this exposition, which is the great setup, because it's not the entire first half of the book. It's just a few pages at the beginning gives us this exposition. But then the artwork is okay, and they're insinuating deaths that don't actually happen on screen or on panel. It just so much could have been so much better about this book. So 65 rather out of 100. As far as the mythology goes, I felt like we don't get a whole lot of mythology in this book. It felt really clunky, though, the bit that we did get, and the Thanos-Gamora link kind of salvaged that a little bit, because it would make sense that Thanos would try and upload his consciousness into Gamora, so that kind of salvaged it. But again, we don't get enough. I know it sounds like I'm going back and forth. Too much exposition, not enough exposition, but it's legit. We only needed a little bit more in this exposition, though. We only needed a little bit. Why that list of people? You don't have to go into each one individually, but how did you conclude that was your list of people that are going to have to die? There's a lot that you have to infer in here that you shouldn't necessarily have to infer, even if this was some sort of big epic mystery, which I feel like it's not going to be that epic of a mystery. There should have been a little bit more reasoning behind why we did the things we did in this book. And yeah, so sorry, I'm burying the lead. The mythology score for this was a 72 out of 100. Could have been much better. Wasn't really. And yeah, next we're getting the story. In the broad strokes, you understand what's going on until the last 2 pages. Fine. In the details, a lot of that is unnecessary. You get, so story is one of the stronger, because again, the broad strokes totally made sense. We've got a 78 out of 100 this time, almost a B. It was enough to keep you going, but still could have been fleshed out in a much better way. And then our enjoyability score, it's an issue number 1. So number 1s always do well. Number 1s generally do a quasi decent job, at least, of setting up the rest of the story arc at the very least. I feel like this, in spite of its flaws, did that all right. It didn't do it great, but it was slightly above average, and I've said that a couple of times. So the enjoyability score on this was an 80 out of 100. I will definitely pick up book 2, but if book 2 is just as much gobbledygook, then that's where this ends. But if book 2 kind of cleans up some of this mess and we get going a little more solid, then we'll probably talk about it a couple books down the road. But before we do any of this stuff, before we click that box or go to that website or whatever, guys, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.